Now, from WNYT, news that matters. With Ed Dague, Chris Kapostasy, meteorologist Bob Kovacic, and Bob McNamara with sports. This is News 13 Tonight.
We begin tonight again with the day's major development in the crisis in the Gulf.
The move made by our own State Department. Iraqi diplomats flat out kicked out of the country. Those who remain are facing rigid new restrictions tonight. Here's what set it all off. 3 dependents of U.S. diplomats, part of a 55-person convoy traveling from Iraq, were not allowed to cross into Turkey. They were sent back to Baghdad, where the diplomats themselves are being held after traveling from Kuwait City last week. So tonight, 36 Iraqi diplomats and support personnel have been ordered out of the United States by Thursday.
The 36 leaving are 7 accredited diplomats, including all those who deal with commercial affairs. The travel of personnel assigned to Iraq's embassy in Washington will be limited to the area defined by a 25-mile radius from that embassy.
I think it is unfair, unjust, uncalled for, because we haven't touched your embassy in Baghdad.
The U.S. is urging other governments to consider similar actions, and President Bush today said he is not optimistic that a diplomatic solution to the crisis is close at hand.
A dozen Air National Guard members from this area very glad to be home tonight. They spent 2 weeks in the Saudi desert, ready to provide immediate care if any shooting had started. Bill Landman was in Glenville late this afternoon when the Guard returned home. Bill?
Ed, the 12 members of the 139th Air Medical Evacuation Flight went as volunteers in the early days of the crisis before President Bush called up thousands of Guard and reserves. A C-130H carried the volunteers back on the last leg of their trip from Saudi Arabia, landing in front of anxious family waiting at the Stratton Air National Guard base.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, look at her, that's Mommy. It's okay, you can cry. Oh, there she is. Go ahead,
Oh. 10 women and 2 men returned, flight nurses and medical support personnel, so that most of the reunions here involved men who had been waiting for their women to come back from possible war. The Guard members had put their lives on the line in a nation where a man and woman about to be married, like these two, could not go out in public together, much less hold hands. This American woman called it an incredible culture shock.
And abaya is what they call it. You have to be clothed from your neck down to your ankles. If you go out, you need to go out in a group. There's a very definite lack of freedom that we take for granted here.
It was 132 degrees one day, and you know, you can take that for maybe an hour. And then...
But despite the heat and the living restrictions, the Guard members were proud to have served.
Clearly, you know, with this issue, it's black and white, who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, and so morale is real high.
Despite the changes from what we're used to, several of the returning Guard members said the experience was not as